Donald Trump's 2024 Republican rivals are backing him against the Colorado court decision. Posting on social media, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis called the ruling tantamount to abusing judicial power and wrote SCOTUS should reverse. Here's former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie.
We don't need to have judges making these decisions. We need voters to have to make these decisions. So I want to see this in the hands of the voters. We're going to win this the right way. We're going to do what we need to do. But the last thing we want is judges telling us who can and can't be on the ballot.
I do not believe Donald Trump should be prevented from being president of the United States by any court. I think he should be prevented from being president of the United States by the voters of this country.
The only candidate for president who didn't immediately condemn the ruling was former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson. Maura, what do
I think his statement's actually very interesting.
The Colorado Supreme Court. Okay, go ahead. Put his statement.
Asa Hutchinson's statement. The factual finding that he supported insurrection will haunt his candidacy.
Maura Gay, what do you say to the Republican candidate's argument that this should be the voters should have the say and not the courts?
Why are you standing with Confederates who betrayed this country? And this is what they're standing with, is the spirit of those Confederates rather than the Americans who came together after a long and brutal civil war that was fought to keep the Union together, and clearly saw a threat in ex-Confederates running for office, so much so that they amended the Constitution to prevent those traitors from running for office. That should send a message that our election system, our electoral system, can be used for nefarious purposes against the democracy itself. It's clear. It's clear as day.
Yeah. David, so the question is, who is the finder of fact that Donald Trump committed insurrection? We, of course, all believe it. I said, okay, Mika, you don't have to dart your eyes around.
I was like...
You don't have to dart your eyes around. I said on January the 7th, Donald Trump should be arrested and tried and sent to jail. But the question is, under the law, due process under the law, do judges randomly decide that he's an insurrectionist, or do people on cable news shows decide he's an insurrectionist, or does he actually have to be convicted of insurrection by federal prosecutors?
These Republican candidates are all willing to fight for the silver medal. They're all willing to fight each other, but they will not stand up to Donald Trump. They're too scared to fight, and therefore they are too weak to win. The reason their words matter now, I think probably what's going through Nikki Haley's head is she's hoping the Supreme Court will deliver for her, but she doesn't want to be the person to say so. The problem they have is the Supreme Court is looking to these candidates for signals about what Republicans expect. If Nikki Haley is trying to be artfully insincere, and maybe Ron DeSantis the same, and to say, please don't do this. I beg you not to do this, while thinking, please do this, please do this, please do this. But that's too complicated. The courts need to hear from Republicans. We respect your authority. If you do this, you will be supported, and that will give the Supreme Court the permission it needs from its fellow Republicans. It's a very political court to act in a way to save the Republican Party from itself. As I keep stressing, had this case come up in the summer, we would be talking about Biden as the beneficiary. But in coming up as it does at the end of 2023, the beneficiaries here are Trump's fellow and better Republicans.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So, George Conway, let me ask you. 14th Amendment talks about someone who's committed insurrection against the United States. Constitution. Who is the finder of fact of that? People on cable news, judges in Colorado, or does it need to be a jury in Washington, D.C. That is hearing a case on whether Donald Trump committed insurrection against the United States Constitution?
Well, as a good longtime member of the Federal Society, you have to look at the text of the constitutional provision. And the constitutional provision says nothing about convictions. They could have easily, when they wrote that provision, said someone convicted of insurrection cannot hold public office. It does not say that. And so what that means is the courts are free to determine on their own, based upon, valid judicial processes, what is an insurrection and whether the facts meet that. And what happened here was there was a 5-day trial where Donald Trump and his lawyers got to participate, and the judge made extensive findings. A judge that actually kind of ruled for him on a bogus ground found that he engaged in insurrection, found this by not just a preponderance of the evidence, which is your lower basic civil court standard, but by clear and convincing evidence, which means that it's way more than, more likely than not. It's very, very, very strong evidence, and you don't see the dissents challenging those findings at all. And in fact, there's no basis to challenge the findings. When you go to the majority opinion and you read the 30 or 40 pages, or I don't know how many there are, on what happened on January 6th and what Donald Trump did before and during January 6th, there's no dispute. I mean, we saw it on television, and we know what happened. He fomented, he engaged in an insurrection. He wanted this to happen. And not only that, I mean, there's another provision in Section 3 of the 14th Amendment that talks about giving aid and comfort to enemies of the Constitution. Well, he did that. He was an enemy of the Constitution. So it's really, if this decision gets overturned, it's not going to be on the basis of the factual findings. And I'll say this about a jury trial. There's no basis for demanding a jury trial here. Any first-year law student will tell you that, because this is not the kind of case, it's not the kind of like a civil case for damages where you do get a Seventh Amendment right to a jury trial. This is election litigation. Election litigation is more equitable, and it's more of something that a court of equity does. And there's never jury trials in election cases because they have to be resolved quickly. And such as Bush v. Gore, that's exactly the same thing. There were no juries there.